After 11 years in the Scudetto wilderness, AC Milan returned to the Serie A summit last season. Expectations have raised for the Rossoneri as they look to defend their title while juggling midweek Champions League action. All while the likes of Juventus, Inter Milan, and Roma have been sharpening their tools over the transfer window. I'm joined by Jonathan Johnson today to discuss whether last year's success was a fluke or a sign of things to come for the Rossoneri. Qué Golazo begins right now. Today's Qué Golazo episode is presented by Gillette Clear Gel Antiperspirant. For those who don't like to sweat, the choice is clear. Gillette is your ticket to all-day freshness. Gillette, the best a man can get. Hey, everybody, welcome to Qué Golazo. Jonathan Johnson in the house. How are you, buddy?
Hey, doing well, thanks. And yourself?
I'm very good. I'm always happy to see you here as we discuss some Serie A. Let's talk about AC Milan, Jonathan Johnson. Let's first of all, after everything has been done, the dust has been settled, and they are kings of Serie A. I'm wondering, was it a case of Milan being dominant or other teams having an off year? What do you think?
I mean, I think that there's a number of ways that you can look at it, but I think ultimately that Milan, sort of gave us a taste, not in the season just gone, but the one before, of their title-winning capabilities, and then managed to see it home, in 2021-22. So for me, I think it takes away from that achievement a little bit to say that, they won it because certain other teams had off days. I mean, yes, there were some teams, Napoli started the season like a house on fire, really, fell away. Juventus had an awful start to the season, which basically cost them their title chances. Inter Milan, obviously, paid, a heavy price in the end, given the changes that were made, during the off season after they were champions, but they still managed to run AC Milan close. So I wouldn't really sort of take away from Milan's title success by looking at what other teams did, or didn't do. I would look at it as, Milan ultimately managing to take it one step further after what was a promising season before that. And I think ultimately that combination that they have of experience and a young talent, being able to replace important players, not necessarily on a shoestring, but at a fraction of the cost, really paid off well. And obviously a lot has changed with the takeover as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And so let's look ahead now to what AC Milan could look like for the 2022-2023 season. It's worth noting, by the way, that the U.S. investment firm, Redbird Capital Partners, agreed a $1.3 billion acquisition of the club. Redbird, already an investor in Fenway Sports Group, the owner of Liverpool as well. So, they're looking to make a statement in Serie A from a U.S. ownership perspective. That should help them in terms of incentivizing the economical situation with AC Milan. But how do you see the squad looking ahead? Rafa Leao was fantastic last season. Mike Maignan, of course, a true contender for that number one spot for France as well. Obviously, Hugo Lloris has it covered, but Maignan is no slouch. But there's so much talent in this AC Milan side. Tonali, of course. How would you see how they do in 2022, 2023, specifically as well? Because Inter are looking very interesting this preseason, with Paulo Dybala looking in as well, and of course Lukaku returning on loan from Chelsea. How would you assess AC Milan this season? I know it's very early, but can they do it as well as they juggle, of course, Champions League action?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a fair question, and I think a lot of the experience, from the season just gone, they're going to call upon. It's going to make them a lot stronger this coming campaign. I do think that there now probably need to be some questions asked about the status of some of the veteran members of the squad. Obviously, we know Zlatan Ibrahimovic is out for the foreseeable future with injury. You've also got Olivier Giroud, who is the best part of 40 years old. Same goes for Simon Kjaer in defense as well. But these guys have brought a lot to the group in terms of mentality. There's a lot of talented young blood, in the squad, and I think they will benefit from the experience of winning the Scudetto last season. And the other thing as well, when we're talking about Redbird Capital coming in, is they're the owners of Toulouse, who have just gotten promoted to Ligue 1 as well. That project centers a lot around data. Now, I wonder if that's also going to factor into the way that Milan approach their transfer dealings in the future, because we already know that they have a fantastic stats set up there at the club. And I think that they will, only look to grow on that, make intelligent acquisitions. So I don't think that there's any need to really change, too much about it. I think it's a great move, to keep Maldini on side, and I don't really even see there being any sort of need to, potentially consider replacing Pioli either, because we've seen, how it takes time for a new coach to settle into a new job. I mean, look at Inzaghi. Once Conte left at Inter, that was almost as big a void to fill as Romelu Lukaku, who interestingly enough, will be heading back to Inter for the coming season to go up against Milan to try and wrest that title away from them. So for me, I think it's less about making really sweeping changes and seeing how much the current crop of talent with a few intelligent acquisitions can really adapt and thrive in this situation as defending champions, because I think that they're better set to defend their title than Inter were 12 months ago with all the transfer changes that were made. But also at the same time, it's not just about what happens domestically with Milan now. It's about, can they get themselves back on the continental stage and established? We saw Inter have a better season in the Champions League last season, despite the fact that they missed out on the Serie A title. And I hope that Milan will learn from what was quite a difficult group stage for them in the Champions League and be able to be much more of a force on the continental stage this coming season. So I think that those are potentially realistic goals for Milan to target. But like I said, big questions need to be asked of those aging stars in the squad and how much they can realistically contribute from here on in.
Yeah, in order to compete in Serie A and the Champions League, you need a deep squad. And of course, as we tape this, many news can happen after the fact. The transfer window is a constant mover, so news may happen even after you watch this. But there are some names. Of course, Frank Kessie is leaving regardless. Personal terms have been agreed with Barcelona. So that's a situation already done. Regardless of what happens with Frank Kessie, he will not be an AC Milan player. As well, you mentioned the aging players, Jonathan Johnson. There's also talk, of course, of Renato Sanchez. We have to wait what happens there. But what would be your prediction then, Jonathan Johnson? We're looking at around March 2023. Where are AC Milan in that situation, if you can look at your crystal ball?
I think they'll still be in title contention. I'm not going to say that they'll be, way out in front, leading the pack or trailing behind. I think they'll be there and thereabouts, sort of think roughly along the lines of how close Inter and Milan were this season, with Inter obviously chasing as defending champions. I'm curious to see what happens with Napoli, given how fast last season's start to Serie A was. We'll see if they can ultimately turn into one of the main contenders, but you have to assume that Juventus are going to come back much, much stronger than they were this season just gone. So for me, I think that they'll probably be in and around the top three come March of next year.
All right, we'll see. And not forgetting, of course, that Juventus want to keep climbing up with Max Allegri. But AC Milan, the champions of Serie A, now they have Champions League football. It's going to be super intriguing to see what they do next season. And of course, you can watch it exclusively on Paramount Plus. Jonathan Johnson, John_LaGossa. Make sure to follow his content on CBS Sports and your CBS Sports app. LME, we will see you next time. Till then.